Time now for our Rants and Raves, starting with Dan Kennedy.
I have a rant for U.S. District Court Judge John Walter, who last week looked at a story that the Los Angeles Times had reported about a corrupt police officer who had pleaded guilty in a corruption case and ordered that certain details about the plea agreement be deleted from the story. Now, this is an order from a federal judge, so they had to do it. They actually had to censor their story. They appealed it. A few days later, Judge Walter did agree that, okay, I shouldn't have done that. You can put the details back in. But this was a horrendous instance of government censorship of the sort that we don't often see. Adam is saying, why?
Why?
Apparently, the feeling was that there were some details in the plea agreement that could have put this corrupt officer's life in jeopardy.
Yeah, there was an agreement there. All right, Adam.
I want to rave for New York Magazine for having the foresight to publish a very provocative cover story suggesting that Donald Trump may have been a Russian asset going back to 1987, right before the Helsinki summit. When this piece by Jonathan Chait came out, there was, as you would expect, a ton of backlash from the president's defenders. Even people who read the piece and thought that it made a number of important points suggested in many cases that it went a little bit too far, was maybe a little bit too breathless. But it is worth reading simply for an overview of how intimately the president has been connected to Russia and things Russian for a very, very long time. It looks really smart, I think, for New York Magazine to have run this right before Helsinki, because the complaining about the piece that I heard before Helsinki has not continued in the aftermath.
All right, Lila.
I have a rave for New York Times photojournalist Tom Brennan, who was in the cabinet room just before the president spoke to members of Congress, noticed that there was handwriting on the president's notes, prepared remarks, which are handed out to reporters beforehand, and took a picture and zoomed in. And what he saw is pretty important, that there is no collusion was written in Sharpie, and the part that was crossed out was about punishing the people who were found to have meddled in the election. But the media lesson here is it's still important to be present, to do your own reporting, to not rely on a feed that's coming from your source or from the official spokesperson or the prepared remarks, and really see what's going on for yourself. That on-the-ground reporting and photos are still really, really important.
All right, Dan.
Well, I have a rave for Savannah Guthrie. She had an interview with Sean Spicer, who's on a book tour, the former White House spokesman. And she was trying to probe a little bit and push him on this notion of how do you reconcile some of the things that you said from that podium with some of the things we later found out, which were falsehoods. And he was trying to kind of make light of the situation, and she said, kept coming at him, and at one point he said, oh, well, you only listed 3 of my falsehoods. Trying to make it a little funny here, but I thought that it was good in that she had, and some others who, he's on this book tour, so others have been interviewing him as well, they have been pushing back on this notion of you have a responsibility when you go in there to tell the truth, and they even played a clip from Jonathan Karl at ABC on his early days and on the job, saying, do you promise to tell the truth and only the truth, basically, and then we saw what happened, and I thought that it was
Did he
good.
ever acknowledge he did lie?
You know what? He did not just come right out and say that he lied, and I think that was the troubling thing. And she kept going at him, but I think he didn't want to say that the president was a liar.
Yeah.
What he wanted her to say is that, well, the president uses hyperbole and all these kinds of things. And clearly he said it wasn't his best moment, but he didn't just come out and make a big, grand confession.
All right, well, finally tonight, I have a rave for CNN and Anderson Cooper just for trying something new. So later this summer, they're going to launch Anderson Cooper Full Circle, which is going to be a Facebook watch page. So it's going to start at 6:25. I'm not clear how long it goes because his live show goes on at 8 o'clock at night. So figure it's going to be 35 minutes or 40 minutes or, probably one of those fuzzy.
Or 5 minutes.
I don't know, because he's going to have a round table.
Okay.
So it's going to be very similar to his show.
But
in some
online
respects.
only?
Online only. Yeah. Facebook Watch, it's called. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, he lost that second half hour when Chris Cuomo came in. And although he was never intending to do 2 hours, he kind of took over for somebody. I can't even remember who he took over for, but somebody who fell by the wayside. Anyway. Who was it? I can't remember.
Piers Morgan, maybe?
I don't remember.